My grandson punched me across the face at my 71st birthday dinner and screamed that I was nothing but a burden who should have died years ago. I fell against the corner of the walnut sideboard, my reading glasses cracking beneath me, blood trickling from a split lip onto a navy silk shirt I had bought especially for that evening. 23 people watched in frozen silence. Not one of them moved to help me up. What my grandson didn't know, what none of them knew, was that by sunrise the next morning, his entire world would be dismantled brick by brick. When he finally checked his phone at 8:47 in the morning, he would find 89 missed calls, 31 voicemails, and a certified letter waiting at his front door that would change the rest of his life. My name is Richard Holloway, and for 43 years, I ran Holloway Media out of a brick building on Lexington Street in Chicago. I built that company from a single desk and a borrowed typewriter into one of the most respected independent media houses in the Midwest. I raised my son Daniel alone after my wife Catherine passed from a heart attack at 45. And when Daniel died in a construction accident at 39, leaving behind a frightened little boy with messy brown hair and a baseball glove he refused to let go of, I became everything to that child. Mother, father, grandfather, home. My grandson Ethan was 10 years old when he came to live with me in the townhouse on Gold Coast. He cried every night for 3 months. I would sit on the edge of his bed and read him chapters from the adventures of Tom Sawyer until his breathing slowed and the tears dried on his cheeks. I paid for his private school at St. Ignatius. I paid for his football lessons, his summers at camp in Michigan, and when he wanted to study business at Northwestern, I wrote the check without blinking. When he married Vanessa Carter, the daughter of a wealthy real estate family from Illinois, I gave him the down payment on a 5-bedroom home in Evanston and a honeymoon in Santorini. When he decided he wanted to start his own talent management agency, I handed him a trust fund of nearly $2 million and made him a vice president at Holloway Media with a corner office overlooking the river. I gave him everything I had to give. And on the night of my 71st birthday, he gave me a split lip and a cracked rib in front of 23 witnesses. The dinner was held at my townhouse, the same house where Ethan had grown up, the same dining room where he had blown out candles on 20 birthday cakes. I had hired caterers from a little Italian place downtown. I wore the gold watch that had belonged to my father. My longtime attorney, Walter Green, was there, a man I had known for 36 years. So it was my accountant Leonard Hayes and my oldest friend Samuel Brooks and 3 senior executives from the company and Ethan's in-laws, the Carters, and Vanessa's business associates, and a handful of neighbors from Gold Coast who had watched Ethan grow up. Ethan arrived 35 minutes late. He walked through my front door in a charcoal designer suit that cost more than most people earn in a month. His hair was slicked back perfectly, his wrists flashing with the platinum watch I had given him for his 30th birthday. Vanessa followed behind him, adjusting her earrings, not meeting my eyes. Their 4-year-old son, Mason, was not with them. When I asked where my great-grandson was, Ethan waved his hand dismissively and said the nanny had him. I should have known something was wrong the moment he walked in. He didn't hug me. He didn't wish me a happy birthday. He scanned the room the way a wolf scans a field looking for weakness. When we sat down at dinner, I found my name card had been moved. I had placed myself at the head of the table, as was tradition, but Ethan had rearranged things. My card now sat at the far end near the kitchen, while his had been placed at the head. I didn't say anything. I simply picked up my plate and walked to the seat he had assigned me. Samuel caught my eye from across the table and gave me a look that said, "We'll talk about this later." I nodded and tried to smile. The first course was served. The second, by the time the sommelier poured the wine to accompany the steak. Ethan had already finished his second glass of whiskey. His face was flushed. Vanessa was murmuring something to him under her breath, but he waved her off. Then somewhere between the salad and the main course, Ethan stood up. He lifted his glass, and for a moment, I thought he was going to make a toast. My heart swelled a little. I thought perhaps he was going to say something kind after all. "I'd like to make an announcement," he said, and his voice was loud enough to cut through every conversation at the table. The room went quiet. "Vanessa and I have decided it's time for some changes at Holloway Media. As of next Monday, I will be assuming the role of Chief Executive Officer. My grandfather has done wonderful work over the years. But frankly, the company needs new blood. It needs a vision that isn't stuck in 1987. My hand tightened around my wine glass. I felt the blood drain from my face. Walter Green set his fork down very carefully. Leonard Hayes' mouth opened slightly. Samuel's eyes went wide. Ethan, I said, keeping my voice as steady as I could, this is neither the time nor the place. We can discuss the future of the company in my office on Monday morning. No, he said, and he smiled the way a person smiles when they think they've already won. We're going to discuss it now, because frankly, Grandpa, you've had your time. You're 71 years old. You should be sitting on a fishing dock somewhere in Florida, instead of clinging to a company that needs to modernize. I stood up slowly. My knees were trembling, but I kept my chin high. Ethan, I'm going to ask you to sit down and apologize to everyone at this table. And then you and I are going to have a private conversation. He laughed. A short, ugly laugh I had never heard from before. And then he walked very deliberately from his seat at the head of the table to where I was standing near the kitchen doorway. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore, he said. His voice was low, dangerous. Do you know how humiliating it's been working under you? Everyone treating me like the boss's grandson. Do you know how Vanessa's family laughs at us behind our backs because you still control everything? You're a burden. You should have died years ago like Dad did and let the rest of us live our lives. The words hit me harder than any physical blow could have. I actually gasped. I took a step back and my hip bumped against the sideboard. And then he raised his hand and punched me across the face. The sound cracked through the dining room like a gunshot. My head snapped sideways. My reading glasses flew off and hit the edge of the cabinet. I lost my footing. I fell hard. My shoulder slammed into the corner of the furniture, my head hitting the hardwood floor. I felt something crack in my chest. I felt warm blood on my lip. I tasted iron. For perhaps 3 full seconds, nobody moved. I lay there on the floor of the dining room. I had decorated with my own hands a house I had paid for with my own work. And I looked up at my grandson standing over me with his expensive suit and platinum watch, and his face twisted into something I no longer recognized. And I understood something very clearly. For the first time in my life, this child whom I had loved more than my own breath was not my family anymore. He had stopped being my family the moment he decided I was a burden rather than a blessing. Walter Green was the first to move. He pushed his chair back, stood up, and walked around the table. Samuel was right behind him. They knelt beside me. Walter took my arm gently. Samuel pressed a linen napkin to my lip. "Richard," Walter said softly, "can you stand?" "I can stand," I whispered. I did not cry. Every fiber in me wanted to, but I refused to give Ethan that satisfaction. Walter and Samuel helped me to my feet. I straightened my shirt. I smoothed down my hair. I looked around the dining room at the faces of 23 people, all frozen in horror. And then I looked at my grandson. "Ethan," I said, and my voice did not shake, "you have made your announcement. Now I will make mine. You will leave this house tonight, and you will never set foot in it again. You will not come to my funeral. You will not inherit so much as a single dollar from my estate. You thought tonight was your coronation. It was your execution.